Hello guys, I'm Fish767, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Golgari deck, and specifically this deck is a more control-based deck, but it mostly fixes on the graveyard, and that's where it gets all of its control from. It basically casts a spell, specifically a spell that destroys something, probably, because that's all that we have, and then it'll get the spell back, and it'll put it right back in your hand, and then you're going to survive long enough to pull off a combo or kill them, and that's the idea. So we've got 2 copies of Spark Harvest, which says, as additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature or pay 4, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Pretty simple. Direct upgrade from Bone Splinters, which was what the previous card was. We have a Drown in Sorrow, which is a 3-drop sorcery. All creatures get -2/-2 until the end of turn, scry 1. Or we have Golden Demise, which is a 3-drop sorcery. Ascend. All creatures get -2/-2 until the end of turn. If you have the Sea's Blessing, instead only creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. I would run a second one of these as opposed to the Drown in Sorrow. We've got 2 Reassembling Skeleton. They're 2-drop 1/1s that have pay 2, return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That's part of our combo. We've got 2 copies of Overseer of the Damned, which is 5 and 2 black, a 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy a target creature. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. We're going to be using those quite a lot. They're very nice. Then we run 2 copies of Remorseless Punishment, which is 3 and 2 black as a sorcery. Target opponent loses 5 life unless that player discards 2 cards or sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and then you repeat the process once, which is a pretty devastating card all in all. You've got 2 copies of Gaia's Blessing. They're anti-mill, plus they're our pretty much only way to deal with stuff going into our graveyard. It's a 2-drop sorcery. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library. Draw a card. When it is put into your graveyard from your library, you shuffle your graveyard into your library. They work very well with Deadbridge Chant, which is a 6-drop enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you put the top 10 cards of your library into your graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose a card at random in your graveyard. If it's a creature card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand, which is what we love doing, and that is how we're going to be abusing this entire system. Fricka's Chosen is a 1-drop creature snake with Death Touch. It's 1/1. You could also use Typhoid Rats or any other 1-drop that's a 1/1 with Death Touch, whatever you wanted to do. Vampire Nighthawk is also a pretty good substitute if you want to put that in. But I prefer Fricka's Chosen because you can get this down turn 1 and it gums up the board a little bit and it makes it hard for your opponents to really attack you and they don't want to do anything about it. So we've got Pitiless Plunderer. It's a 4-drop 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap. Sacrifice this artifact. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. That's another part of our combo. And then we've gotten here a Ashnod's Altar, which is a 3-drop artifact. Sacrifice a creature. Add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. We've got Aid from the Cowl. It's a 5-drop enchantment with Revolt at the beginning of your end step. If a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, which we specialize in, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you may put it on the bottom of your library. If it's not a permanent card, you're going to put it on the bottom of your library unless you need it to kill something that's about to kill you. Otherwise, it goes on the bottom of the library because we're trying to get out these cards as quickly as possible. We've run 3 copies of Stinkweed Imp, which is a 3-drop 1/2 flyer that essentially has Death Touch and Dredge 5, but it doesn't actually have the keyword Death Touch, but it reads the same as Death Touch. It says whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. So it's basically Death Touch. The good thing is, if something says get rid of the keyword Death Touch, it doesn't get rid of this card's essential Death Touch. And because of Dredge 5, instead of drawing a card, we can instead put the top 5 of our deck into our graveyard and return this to our hand, which is extremely helpful. There's plenty of ways that you can actually abuse that if you need to, and it also really gums up the board state quite a lot, so you'd be surprised how much that thing can just gum up the board state. Sifter of Skulls, a 4-drop 4/3 with Devoid. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you put a 1/1 colorless or drowsy silent creature token on the battlefield. As sacrifice this creature, add colorless to your mana pool. We've got a copy of Statue and Status. Status is hybrid black and green instant. Target creature gets +1/+1, gains Death Touch till the end of the turn. Or Statue, a 4-drop instant, is sure target artifact, creature, or enchantment. We're going to be mainly using it for the statue purpose, but it does make a good turn our skeleton into a Death Touch or one of our tokens or something. Raking Canopy is It was actually really hard for me to find one of these. You don't know how hard it was for me to find one of these. And I didn't mean to find it, and I was accidentally looking in the green box and just was like, oh, here's a good card, I'll pick it out. But I would have never found this otherwise. It would have been impossible for me to have found this card. But it's a 3-drop enchantment. Whenever a creature with flying attacks you, it deals 4 damage to it. Straight up, we don't have much flying control besides the Stinkweed Imps. This card's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It kills off pretty much all early game flyers, and it kills off any 4/4 angel tokens, so you don't have to worry about those, and it's just a wonderful card in general. Phyrexian Scriptures is a 4-drop saga. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. On 2, you destroy all non-artifact creatures. Unfortunately, that includes our own, but that's completely fine because we can just reanimate them. And then for 3, you exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards, which is pretty devastating. But not important. We have it in there because it's a big old log. Carrion Feeders on 1-drop creature zombie, can't block, it's a 1/1, sacrifice the creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. We can use that in part of our combo if we're not able to get the Ashnod's Altar out quick enough. Bramble Crush is a 4-drop sorcery, destroy target non-creature permanent. The reason it's in here is because it hits planeswalkers, and also gets rid of artifacts and enchantments. We run 2 of those. Sagromancer is a 4-drop 3/3 flyer. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may gain 3 life. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may gain 3 life. It's very nice. We need to keep our life total up if we're going to survive through the game. We've got 2 Golgari Charm. It says it's for 2, it's an instant, choose 1. All creatures get -1/-1, or you destroy target enchantment, or you regenerate each creature you control. If your creatures have Death Touch, and regenerating them might actually be better than just killing everything, because oftentimes they'll kill off basically our entire board. But you know, it has its options. We run 2 copies of Death Sprout, which is 1, 2 black, and a green. Instant, destroy target creature, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle, which is really nice for a kill spell that it ramps us. And then we've got Palace Siege, which is a 5-drop enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you choose cons or dragons. Generally, you will choose cons, but if you already have out a couple of Dead Bridge chants, or even just 1, you might just go with the dragons to get the game over faster. Con says at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and Dragon says at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So that's a flexible card. Use it however you will. Then we run 3 copies of Foul Orchard. We run 1 copy of Jungle Hollow and 3 copies of Golgari Gilgate. We run 9 swamps and 8 forests. And I did manage to get all my forests to be this nice, beautiful pink forest right here. I have not done that with my swamps yet. Working on that. But I love that beautiful pink forest. So that was the main deck. We do have a side deck, not a side deck, but a sideboard, but I'm going to go over that after we get through with the combo. So the idea of the combo, if you haven't already seen my video on it, because I have an entire video just dedicated to this combo, it was the first video I ever did. It's called Mono Black Extremely Budget Infinite Combo. So what you do is you have the Resummoning Skeleton on the field, you need the Pitiless Plunder and the Sifter Skulls on the field, and then either Ashnod's Altar or Carrion Feeder. So what you're going to do is you're going to sacrifice the Resummoning Skeleton, and when you do, you're going to get an artifact, and then you're going to get a Scion, and then if you have Carrion Feeder, you're going to get a +1/+1 counter on it, and if you have Ashnod's Altar, you're going to get 2 additional mana. Anyway, you can sacrifice the Scion then for colorless mana, which is going to generate another artifact, and then you're going to use one of the artifacts, one of the treasures for black mana, and then you can bring back the Resummoning Skeleton, and then you're effectively up 1 treasure. So you can do this an infinite number of times to generate an infinite number of treasures, which then gives you an infinite amount of mana, and because you have an infinite amount of mana of any color at this point, you can create infinite Scions with Sifter Skulls. Now if you have Ashnod's Altar, you can accelerate the process by just using the colorless from there, and then you make an infinite amount of colorless mana and an infinite amount of Scions right off the bat, and then you can sacrifice the Scions to make however many treasures you need. And Carrion Feeder gets infinitely big if you use him instead. So that's the basic idea of the in-deck combo. Now we do have a different combo in our sideboard in case our opponent is running heavy creature removal and we can't get anything to stick. Or if they're running a control and counter deck, we do have stuff for that as well. So in our sideboard, we've got 2 copies of Bottomless Pit, which is a 3-drop enchantment. During each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random. It's really good for breaking up control, and our graveyard is a resource, so we don't care. We've got Accursed Witch, which is a 4-drop, 4/2 creature. Spells your opponent's cast the target, it costs 1 less to cast, but when it dies, you return to the battlefield transformed under your control attached to target opponent. And on the other side, it has an Infectious Curse. It's an enchantment or a curse. Enchant player spells you cast that target the enchanted player costs 1 less. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, they lose 1 life, you gain 1 life. which is really good if we're drawing out the game in a control match. We've got Silence the Believers, which is a 4-drop instant strive. It costs 3 more to cast for each target beyond the first. Exile any number of target creatures and all ores attached to them. You got to remember, we can make infinite mana, so this could just be, I'm going to wipe my opponent's board in case they maybe went infinite the turn before, but they haven't had a chance to attack us. Cruel Reality is a 7-drop enchantment or a curse enchant player at the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep. That player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and if they can't, they lose 5 life. But they have to do it no matter what. They don't get the choice. Torment of Scarabs is a 4-drop enchantment or a curse enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player loses 3 life unless he or she sacrifices non-land permanent or discards a card. They get the choice here. They don't have to do it. But if they don't, they lose 3 life. We've got Curse of Misfortunes, a chant player. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library for a curse card that doesn't have the same name as a curse attached to an enchanted player. Put it on the battlefield attached to that player, then shuffle your library. We've got another Torment of Scarabs. Then we got Curse of Thirst, a 5-drop enchantment or a curse enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, it deals damage to that player equal to the number of curses attached to him or her. I thought it gained you life equal to that number, but it doesn't. But it's still a good card to have in here. And then we run 2 Return to Nature, which is a 2-drop instant. Choose one to destroy target artifact or an enchantment, or exile a card from a graveyard. In case our opponents are running graveyard stuff, we can just run that. Oxidize is a 1-drop instant. Destroy target artifact. It can't be regenerated. We have this in here specifically to stop Karn and Microsynth combo, because if that gets played, it's game over. So this is a really cheap way to just stop that. Then we have Broken Bond. It's 2-drop sorcery. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. And then we run 2 copies of Doomfall, which is the 3-drop sorcery. Choose one target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls. It's their choice, or they reveal their hand. You choose an online card from it, and then you exile that card. So that's our deck. That's what we're running. If our opponent is running a control deck, if they can't exile the spells that we're casting, and you manage to get Stinkweed Imp, just cast it and then dredge 5, and you don't have to worry about dredging your entire deck out because you've got Gaia's Blessing in there, which will just reshuffle everything afterwards anyway, and so you can just be safe knowing that you're going to be absolutely fine. Unfortunately, no, it's actually completely fine because as a resolving dredge, you can't shuffle your graveyard in. So that's what you could do, and it will really annoy the control player that they're not able to get any ground on you, and you're going to be guaranteed to get out a creature. You're guaranteed to get out a creature at that point. So control is not a huge problem unless they can exile or stuff. But a big batch of just I'm going to hate on every single creature that you play could be a problem, and so we have a couple things to respond to that. Overall, this deck is pretty hard to counter, and it does very well. It's got early plays, mid plays, and then late game plays, and then it tries to drag the game out for as long as it can. It enjoys having time until it can get the combo on. So, but of course the combo is not necessary to get. You can still win very easily on turn 6 or something, and if the opponent doesn't get lands, it becomes a very easy, I'm just going to marathon you till you die with 1/1s, and that's very easy to arrange. You could, of course, add in Leyline Prowler, which is a 2/3 for 3 that can tap for a mana vein color, and it's got Death Touch, which would be a fine addition. Or you could even add in Vampire Nighthawk, which would be another addition, and Butcher of Malakar wouldn't be bad either, but that one's a little bit more expensive for what it does, but it does what it does amazingly well. Some other cards that you could add in would be potentially, if you wanted to go another route with the combo, you could go Feed the Pack, which says at the beginning of your end step, you can sacrifice a non-token creature, and if you do, you create an X/2/2 Wolves, where X is the non-token creature's toughness. And then if you run Essence of the Wild, any creature that enters the battlefield becomes a copy of it, and it's a 6/6, so you can reanimate the Reassembling Skeleton for 2 mana at the beginning of your turn, and then sacrifice it at the end of your turn, and then you're creating 6/6 Essence of the Wilds, basically, because Reassembling Skeleton becomes a copy of Essence of the Wild, then all the wolves become a copy of it as well. So you get really big things as well, and the card's relatively cheap, so you could run that combo if you want. And then Black Market's a good one to have as well if you wanted to do that. And if you wanted to expand on the lands a little bit, you could add in Blanket of the Night, which turns all lands into swamps, and it's a 3-drop enchantment. It's cheaper than using Tomb of Yawgmoth, so it's a lot cheaper actually than using Tomb of Yawgmoth. And then you can also run Crypt crypt something, and it says pay 3, tap it, and you get black equal to the number of swamps that you have. And then there's another one, Crypt of Agadim, maybe, and you pay like 4 and tap it, and then you get X black, where X is the number of black creatures in your graveyard or something. And then there's a couple songs, if you wanted to add those in, that will either give you life or give you black mana based on the number of creature cards in your graveyard, which would be good additions. And then potentially there is a 4-drop sorcery that has Dredge 2, and it says target opponent reveals their hand and then discards any card. You choose a card, any card, and then they discard that card. It could be whatever you want. And so that card would actually be a pretty good addition to this deck, I think. And you could just run 1 or 2 of them, and then it becomes pretty consistent hand destruction because you can just Dredge 2 to get it back, and it plays havoc on blue decks. So, because either they counter it and then they're down a counterspell, or you get to see their hand and then they're down a counterspell. So it is a little bit expensive at 4 mana though, but you can do it as many times as you need to. So those are the immediate upgrades that I would consider. And then of course you can always expand on it. There's plenty of ways to expand on this deck. It's not just set in stone the way it is now. You could do anything that you wanted to upgrade it. A really good card that you might add is Liliana of the Dark Realm. I think that's the one that it is. That gives you an emblem that makes your swamps tap for 4 mana instead of just 1. That would be an amazing card to add in. The more mana that you have, the more times that you can do the combo without having the full-on combo, and the more stuff that you can get from it. So the pieces are meant to work together sort of in any order, and the entire combo is completely like instant speed. And if you wanted to just win the combo without having to make the infinite number of creatures and then swing them, you could add in Zulaport Cutthroat or any card that does the same thing, where it says whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and then they lose a life, and then you can just do that 20 times if you wanted to, or however many times it takes. And so that would instantly kill them. The entire combo, like I said, it's instant speed. You can do all of it at instant speed, and even if they try to stop it, if you still have some mana left over, you can do it again if they stop it at the wrong spot in the combo. They'd have to stop it as you're making the token, and even if they do, you can still reanimate. So it's very hard to just stop the combo once it gets going. As long as you have mana open, it'll be nearly impossible to stop you from comboing off, no matter what they do. So, this is probably my favorite deck. I actually found out this. I did the combo all by myself. I made it all by myself. It's completely an original, my own combo. I didn't see anybody else doing it online. I don't think anybody else still does it at all. And I just was like messing around, and then I'm like, oh, these cards do something. Let's build on it. And then I finally found the last piece to make it go infinite. So, this is probably my favorite pet deck that I've been working on since I started playing, and it started out mono black and now it's into Golgari. So. If you guys want to build it, I would actually really enjoy that. And let me know if you guys have any success with it and what changes you guys made, if you made any. I would love to know those things. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you all have a good day. Goodbye.